Hello, and welcome to a Space Foundation Emerging Trends interview. I'm Megan Wenrich, the manager of DC Operations, and today we have an exciting discussion about the emerging trends in Israel. Our interviewee today will share their journey and observations about the trends that are taking place within this region. Let me introduce our speaker today. Vered Cohen-Barzilay is an Israeli-born entrepreneur and tenacious advocate for aviation, space, and science education. The founding director of Out of the Box Social Enterprise promotes innovation and entrepreneurship in STEAM education. Hello, Vered. Would you provide some of your insights on the emerging trends you are seeing in Israel?
Yes, and thank you, first of all, Megan, for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. So I have to start with satellites. Satellites has been something that Israeli, by the way, is the 8 countries in the world that succeeded in launching positioning satellites in space. So this is something that we put a special focus on since the 80s. We have a few kinds of satellites. We have OFEC military and Amos communication and Venus, which is Earth observation satellites. We need those in order to, of course, for defense and security. As you know, Israel is a country surrounded by enemies, and this is something that we put the focus for our survival. But in addition to those, as you know, Israel is also a startup nation. So in the last, I think, decades, we see a really a growing wave of space startups, and very successful one, I have to say. First of all, I have to probably, I don't know, most of at least the Israeli, but maybe many of the international listeners will know about or heard about Bereshit, which is Space.il, little a lander. It's a spacecraft. And what Bereshit is doing now, as you know, they tried. This is the smallest spacecraft that Israeli has been launched. It's Bereshit. Space.il is a commercial, the first commercial space flight, and we aimed for the moon. It took us a while, but we already almost reached there. But at the end, the spacecraft just crashed before she landed, but in a different way. We can say that. So now we have Bereshit 2, which is even more inspiring, and I think that again, this is something very maybe. We can say that about Israeli. We don't intimidated by failure. We just go on to the next level and even a bigger mission. So what Bereshit is trying to do is to build 3 spacecraft. One of them is the orbiter and 2 lander that will launch in 4 years only. Again, the budget is not, we don't have too many budgeted because, you know, Israeli is not that large country, but we are very happy to be able to at least try that. In terms of more space startups, we have many and very successful startups like Helios, which is space startups that will create fuel, oxygen for fuel from lunar soil. So this very young startup just now created a very nice collaboration with the Japanese, and also it has more international collaborations. So we have another, again, I think that it's a European and Israeli collaboration, Aleph Farms, which are doing cultivated meat, and now they are sending their second experiment to the International Space Station. And we also have Space Pharma, which is a very nice and cool startup that you can send a variety of experiments, very, minor, very tiny, and with low cost, at least to what we usually pay this day, and to have a connection to your remote mobile. and Stemrad, which is, I think, the most known Israeli space startup. They have the vest that protect the astronauts. Already been experiments at the International Space Station to protect them from radiation. So those are the things that we already have. We also have the first Israeli space tourist, Eitan Stiba, that will be launched very soon in collaboration with Oxium and Dragon 2, SpaceX, to the International Space Station for 10 days. And he will conduct, guess how many experiments?
Oh, I can't even. How many?
One Israeli space astronauts. How many? 50. 50 experiments that he will take with him. One of them is also hummus. So maybe one day the astronaut will be able to eat hummus, which is a very nice dish, Israeli Mediterranean dish on space. So those are the things that we already have. Of course, we are putting a lot of efforts in education, promoting women, Israelis, doing a collaboration with UNOOSA, and many more. So those are the trends. We also, by the way, I'm also a mentor at Starbust Israel. So Israeli also have a space and aviation aerospace accelerator. So those are the trends that I've seen now, and I think that's very cool.
Well, thank you so much for sharing some of those items with us. I'd love to spend a few minutes kind of digging down to some of each of the things you brought up. And if it's all right, I'd love to pose a question about how do you think Israel can kind of promote its space sector, creating that international awareness for investors around the globe to seek opportunities in the space economy?
Yeah. So first of all, budget. It's the only thing that we can that we need more. Israeli budget is not very high. It's only $14.5 million, which position her number five from the end of the space agencies. But we do have many international collaboration. We also have conferences, and we need more conferences, I think. We have conferences, the Israeli Space Week, in which we have large conference. Actually, it's a week of conferences that we do here, and we invite astronauts and people from international agencies, space agencies. But of course, more collaboration, more conferences, and just to get to know all the cool things that we are doing here, like what you are doing. I think those events, online events, everything that we can. I think that we have here in Israel a very innovative minds. I can see that also from a very young age. I think that if those kind of collaboration, international collaboration, can bring wonderful things together. So I can see the private sector, reaching out to more space and space collaboration. I think that we need that even more.
Great. Yeah. And that kind of delves right into the next kind of thing I wanted to touch on, was about the investment markets and your international cooperations here. I know you touched that on a little bit, but could you maybe touch a little bit on where you expect to see that space sector growth within Israel? And is there any type of export opportunities that the country might have?
Well, space sector, of course, can grow more because we are very small. I think the fact that I know all of them here in Israel just represent how small community it is. But Israel is also a small country. But I think that if you can take as an example to Bereshit, for example, what Bereshit has done, what Space.il has done is really phenomenal. And this is just an example of what we do with a very little budget. I think that not many the private section don't understand the potential in space, and they are starting to know that now. But I do feel that we can have more private investors and also the private companies investing in either small startups or just startups in starting to grow, or just understanding that everything that we have here we can duplicate it or just make an adjustment for space. So definitely I think that we have more potential to grow And in terms of what we can do, again, just have sometimes, just bringing the people together, it just they understand how the potential. But conferences, I do feel that international conferences, professional conferences can be very useful. I'm just mentioning it now because of the COVID. We didn't have conferences for, I don't know, at least a year, maybe more. And I do see that as something very important that we miss very much.
Yes, it is great that when we can get to the point where we'll all be able to be together in person. I think that does bring a different level of cooperation and communication to the table, for sure.
Also, I can say, by the way, that the U.S. was involved with Abraham Accords, so with bringing Israeli and countries from the Middle East like UAE and many more to work together in collaboration, do it publicly. I think that's something very much important. It's really open for Israel and also for the UAE, for the Emirates, many potential. And I think that those days, Israel and the Emirates are busy in signing space collaboration together, doing satellites together and many more educational and also research programs together. So those are the things that are very important, because we do, located in the Middle East, we can fight each other, but there are more opportunities besides do that. And I think that we have to say gratitude to the United States for putting many resources for many years, trying to bring peace and also peace through all those collaborations.
And space is a really great place to find that common ground, and you see that across the globe. So it's good to see that, that's something that Israel has to offer as well. I would love to touch a little bit on something you mentioned in your comments about, you're very, very much a pro women empowerment, especially within the space ecosystem here. So would you mind perhaps sharing some emerging trends that might be specific to female entrepreneurs in Israel?
Yeah, well, as you probably know, entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, we don't have too much, not just in Israel, but also internationally, just a few percentage. So, of course, I would like to see more female entrepreneurs. I'm always saying that I'm looking for the female type of Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. So I do look for it. I think that, again, we have a potential, not just here in Israel, but globally, to find those women. Women are having a very important role. But in terms of Israel, again, since military is also a very good jump for the private sector, we do have opportunities for female soldiers to be a part of the space satellite sectors. So I think that we see more women taking a role also in startups, also in the major roles, also in satellites companies, both in private or in the military sector. We also see, of course, women taking putting many efforts in education and educating the next generation. We have growth interest, especially among girls, to be part or take part in the aerospace industry, which is fantastic, I think. Again, the only thing that I feel that we still miss and we have to have, and I think no one in Israel will say that will not agree with this, is the fact that I do think that we need female astronauts. So this is something that is my personal target. I really want to see female astronauts because I know what kind of impact it will have among the girls. We do have also females analog, they're taking part, very major part in analog missions. So and even growing educational and knowledge, research knowledge about analog missions. And we also have the desert of Israel, which is fantastic, or just ground very similar to Mars. So we have the place to make those analog missions. And I do feel that this is something that we can offer also for the international community.
Well, that's fantastic. And I think you hit on something there that's very important that I'd like to delve into a little bit about, perhaps inspiration to see folks in these roles, specifically a female astronaut, might help encourage some of our young girls that are just in K through 12 education or the primary school education over Israel, to see those types of women breaking the glass ceilings and doing these experiments, perhaps on the space station. Could you perhaps, Vered, share some of your insight on what this inspiration could do for Israel specifically?
So we do measure like the Apollo reaction, we do measure the Bereshit reaction, and we see that there is very positive reaction, especially in education. So what Bereshit has done, and also we had an astronaut, Ilan Ramon. The fact that we had an astronaut, a male astronaut, even with all the tragic, how it ended tragically, but it did made an enormous effect. The fact that because of the work of Rona Ramon, which was the widow of Ilan Ramon, she was the one that really promoted space here in Israel. She promoted space education, and she really asked, when NASA asked her, how can we help you? And she said, I don't want you to help me, I want you to help the next generation. And she asked NASA to send astronauts, and she took the astronauts with her to travel the cities in Israel, and that made so much impact. And it inspired not only the next generation, also females like me. I think that again, as I said, the fact that we don't have a space legacy, we didn't have any part in Apollo, so we have that in the memory as an observers, my parents probably that used to talk about it a lot, but you can't raise the next generation just by considering the Apollo visions that you had when you were young. So all the things that are being done now in the world, the fact that we do have commercial space flights, and we do have commercial astronauts, and we see women. Inspiration, for example, Inspiration 4 is a wonderful example that the Israeli girls can look at them and see women with disabilities and also beat cancer as their hero, and she can travel to space. This is something that the Israeli girls will most likely be inspired. I do feel that if we will have Israeli, and this is something that, again, I took it on myself to try to have more analog missions, to combine, to have a mix Middle East and also mix international collaboration. For example, we have one of our programs combining kids, high school students from a few places in the world, studying from Israeli and Turkey and US and Italy. They all study together and they invent space entrepreneurship. So they using their innovative minds in order to look for solutions for the future. So those are the things that I think really affect and inspire the young generation. Again, to see Israeli flag, at the ISS, this is something that you can't beat that. So definitely, I do look forward to this day.
It seems very exciting. I think we're at a great juncture in space here to see what the next generation is going to do. And kind of going along that topic, as we look to kind of empowering women to take more of a role and have more advantages and opportunities here, could you maybe speak a little bit to how they could play a central role in the development of the Israeli space sector? How could they change perhaps either the direction it's going or some of the other items in conjunction with that?
Yeah, so first of all, we do have first female ministers that she's responsible on space and also science, which is something that we, of course, would very much welcome. I think that she was the first one to play that role. So that is something fantastic. And also, we do have the government director of the Ministry of Science and Space. So those are the two things that we really much encourage, and we look forward to see them promoting more women. I do feel that we know that it's not just in Israel. The fact that we don't see an increasing number of percentage of girls studying STEM, especially science, especially technology and physics. Those are the things that, and aerospace, of course, those are the things that we put special focus. I do feel that we all know that space will be one of the major impact on the private and the incomes of the world incomes in the future. And we want to see more female out there. We want to see more female taking a leading role. In order for them to do that, we have to encourage them from a very young age to be part of it. What I'm mostly troubled is the fact that if we will have, we can see now that, as I said, we have women globally taking a very important roles, leading, like being the director of SpaceX, for example. On the other hand, the entrepreneurs, the people with the money, most of them are men. The most fortunate people in the world are men. They are not women. This is something that it's very, I feel that it's something that we need to put to be still troubled by that, and we need to put the focus on that. And the reason is because if, for example, we will be able, and I truly believe that we will be able to do it, to colonize Moon and Mars. So women will have to be part of the decision makers. And if the decision makers are the people, are the men with the money, with the budget, are their entrepreneurs, and we don't have too many females out there, my concern is that we will make the same mistakes as we did here on Earth. So what I don't want to see is that we will colonize or start a new generation on other planet, and still women will be behind, and we'll have the same situation that we have here, that we will have to wait 100 years to fix the gender gap. I don't want to see that. And I think that the only way to fix that is that we must encourage more girls and more women to take part, to be related to money, because women have some issues, strong issues with money. It's not coming from a bad way, because they are thinking about impact. They are working in, care works, and they are working in education, but they are not really rewarded well. If they will be rewarded well, if they will be the entrepreneurs, they will most definitely think about those issues, and those issues are very, very important. We are just building now the next generation world map. It's a universe map. So we know that the map is also something very political. We can't allow ourselves that a man will write the history books and the man will write the maps or draft the universal maps. We have to be there physically between the decision makers and make sure that the new colonization, will be also equally and welcome all people from diverse population.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, and it's something that I look forward to, this being a new stepping stone for humanity, right, to do things right this time. But one thing I wanted to touch on, Vered, was you mentioned educators a lot, and how important they are in catching some of these girls and kids early on in their educational journey. Could you maybe talk a little bit about how important, we've talked a bit about inspiration, but maybe talking a little bit about how getting education of space into the classroom or into a child's life early could help, develop the economy in the space sector in the future.
Yeah, well, I think it was when Apollo 50, when they conducted the survey, and they asked Americans and also European students, young students, what do you want to be when you will grow up? And most of them said, guess. Do you know what the answer was?
Was it an astronaut?
No, astronaut was the last thing that they thought about. They wanted to be a YouTuber.
Oh.
So here we have, this is the problem, you see, that they don't look up to the sky, double meaning. We have to make them inspired. And I mean, in many ways, they are living in the most, I think, exciting period of their life. They have the opportunity, and they will have the opportunity to choose where to work, maybe to live on other planets. So in many ways, they have what we never had. But on the other hand, if they don't know that, if we don't educate them to dream about that, they will want to go, they dreaming about Kim Kardashian more than being an astronaut. And we can't allow that. On the other hand, by the way, they did the same survey. I think it was China or Japan. And over there, the answer were different. Number one was being an astronaut. What we are trying to do, at least in Out of the Box, is to reach out to schools and also to reach out and teach them more innovative ways, more fun ways, more project-based learning ways, and also personal-based learning ways to teach those students aerospace. We try to be very creative in reaching out to them, to speak their language, to speak with them about what they love. So it's not just being an astrophysics, because space is open for everyone. It can be fashion, space fashion. It can be space art. It can also be space entrepreneurship, and it also be space a pilot. We just had, again, inspiration first spaceship pilot, which is fantastic. So those are the things that we really need to teach them. And we also need to give them a lens to what the future will look like. They don't know, for example, because I'm on Starbus and many groups, I do see the flying taxis, for example, that very soon will be part of our lives. I do feel that at some time, I don't know, maybe the next 10 years, if you will not have a flying lesson, the flying certificate, you will not be able, because the cars will be automatic. And if you want to, to look at the future is up in the sky. So those are the things that we really need to reach out to them. What I've seen is that we know that the percentage of women working now in the industry, space industry, are 22. If we want to increase that, and we have to reach out for the girls, we have to give them more role models. We have to give them more opportunities. We have to reach out to them. We have to explain the boys and the girls how to work together, how to learn together, how to respect each other. Those are the things that they don't teach them in schools. We really need to teach that, because afterwards we know that the leaking pipeline, we are losing the girls in university, we are losing them afterwards when they are joining work. And we have to fix the leaking pipeline, since kindergarten. We have to reach them. And I just recently read this very interesting article that said that I think that it was girls from the age of 5 starting to believe that STEM is not theirs. They are, even if they are interested in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, even if they are interested in their, we are losing them in the middle of from elementary school to mid school. So those are the ages when they believe and lose their belief in being a STEM expert. So we have to make a lot of work in this, but not just for educating the girls, but also to reach out to the entire population. We have many countries in the world, and also, in Israel, many unprivileged population that we really need to reach out to them and give them those opportunities. Those opportunities are very crucial for the future. If the future will be 90% from the future work will have STEM related. Will be STEM related, we have to reach out to them. We can't leave them, without a proper knowledge. This is our responsibility. Again, not just an Israeli, as a citizen of the world.
Well, that's fantastic. You actually touched on one of the questions I wanted to talk about next, about advocacy and awareness, and just keeping kids and young adults, all through that pipeline involved and educated and excited about space science and all the STEM background there. And then one thing I guess I wanted to touch on, Vered, was we don't necessarily know what some of these future space jobs will look like. You mentioned how, cars might be automatic, and we have to look to the sky for the future here. So I guess at this point, I just would like to ask if there's anything else you'd like to share with our audience on anything we talked about, or maybe a look towards the future here.
Yeah, well, I think that you really pointed something very important. I can teach them the future works. What I can teach them is the skills and how to gain the knowledge. So those are things that are very, very important. Once they know how to, the skills that are, I think, very much important is curiosity, perseverance. All the rovers' names. I know it's just a rover's name, but it is. Those are the things that we really need to teach them. We need to teach them how to work in groups because they don't know how to do it. We need to teach them how to reach out for the knowledge, how to search for the knowledge, and how to make research, how to know what is a proper research or not, what is fake news and what is news. Those are the things that are very, very important. This work is not important just, for the US audience. It's also important worldwide. I've asked Shirley Brunswick to be one of our guests at the Science Accelerator competition that we had last year. Science Accelerator is it's a program that educating youth for space entrepreneurship. And again, the fact that Israeli students can sit in their houses being, logged in and see Shirley and listen to her and, everything that she's doing, the wonderful inspiring model that she is, and many others. They meet astronauts, they meet NASA scientists. Those are the things that are very much important. And I think that the fact that the space community is really willing to reach out to many countries, I know that you are doing also reaching out to Africa. Those are the things that are very, very important. The world is just becoming borderless. We see that now. The COVID separate us, but in many ways it united us. So we can't just say that we are just Americans, we are just Israeli, we are just, Emirates. We are just here in this together. And as Carl Sagan said, the world, when you are looking from the outside at the Earth is just a blue pale dot, and we have to take care of this blue pale dot together.
We are so grateful for your time. Thank you so much for joining us in your ongoing partnership. This has been a great discussion, and we look forward to future events that we partner on in the future here. Thank you all for joining us. If you're interested in learning more about our Space Foundation programs or watching other international emerging trends webinars that we have, please go to spacefoundation.org or check out our Emerging Trends series. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you again. And remember, there's a place for everyone in the new global space ecosystem.